Ohio and Michigan. Randy's emphasis on servant leadership culture is a cornerstone of Trilogy's culture. Randy is a proud graduate of U of L. He got a bachelor's degree in commerce and accounting, class of 1981. In 2015, he was inducted to the College Entrepreneurship Hall of Fame, and last year he's recognized as a University Alumni Fellow for the College of Business. Of major note, he was the manager of the 1980 NCAA championship team, so I hope he brings some good luck for the team today and for the tournament. And so I want to thank Randy for coming and introducing. He's going to update the score for us, too.
Still 4, but we're going to the line. Thank you, Steve. Certainly is a pleasure to be back at school today and introducing a fellow entrepreneur. And when I did some research on Bob Luddy, it's just fabulous that you can find other people and mentors who have followed similar paths. And then as I did more research, I found out that our organization is actually a customer. So we were talking shop, and just in the interest of all the business school people in here today, he was still trying to sell me. He's working right now. He wants to do more business with us. But anyway, since founding the company in 1976, in a one-room, Captive Air Systems has grown to employ more than 1,000 employees nationwide, 90 sales office, and 6 manufacturing plants. Sales for 2016 were north of $350 million. So quite a story here. He's voted continually best in class for food service equipment and supplies by their national trade group, having won that award for 16 consecutive years. So they know about quality. They are in the top 100 in North Carolina in terms of the private companies' rankings, and they continually make the Fast 50 for the Raleigh Triangle area. Bob is an avid supporter of people who start their businesses and the free market system. Although he's received numerous awards over the years, this is a great quote that I found from him. Bob says the real award for entrepreneurs is the satisfaction of seeing your vision move from concept to reality. And I agree with that. He's a mentor to small business owners and advisors to politicians about laws affecting businesses. We'll be interested to hear from him whether they actually listen, because we do give them good advice. And then the last thing that is very consistent with our organization that I found out about Bob in my studies, he gives back. He's here today to give back, as you might suspect, but he also gives back in another very significant way, and that he realized in his area of North Carolina there was a need for better schools. And so he's led an effort that's opened up schools that service currently, they have 4,000 students enrolled, K through 12, with a goal not of education only, but he also wanted to be sure that these youths develop great character, and I love this, reasoning skills. And I can tell you, we've, over the years, employed people who were very smart, but didn't have critical thinking and that reasoning skills. So I think it's really awesome to have Bob here today. And with no further ado, let's give him a good College of Business welcome to Bob Luddy.
Thank you very much, Randy. Can you hear me okay? Yes. Who ever heard of this term, entrepreneur, servant of the user? It's not quite a familiar term, but it's not my term. Ludwig von Mises, who was the great Austrian economist, finished his career at NYU, basically developed this concept and said that the only way as entrepreneurs that we can ever succeed is to serve our users. So think about this rather profound concept. And one of the things I think you will learn over the course of your lifetime, if you follow high, good, proven theory, you're going to move a lot faster in life than if you ignore it. And obviously that implies that if you never learn it, you're going to have to learn it the hard way, and it's going to slow down your career and your ability to perform in the marketplace. So entrepreneurs not only serve the user, but they anticipate their needs. Wayne Gretzky was considered one of the great hockey players of all time, and his comment was, he was always moving to where the puck would be. So the entrepreneur needs to move toward where the market's going to be. And so most of us think in terms of where we're at today, conventional wisdom, we get locked into it. And we know that the economy's dynamic, but we don't take the right steps. We don't look into the future. Entrepreneurs essentially are seeing things that others are not seeing or they're ignoring. Another aspect of entrepreneurs is they basically challenge the status quo all the time. They continuously challenge it. And even when they find better answers, they challenge it again. Whereas in most of the world, we live in a world where people are more complacent. A recent book I reviewed by Tyler Cowen, The Complacent Class. And it's easy to be complacent when things are going well, but remember, the economy and the world are dynamic and they're constantly changing. And in a given day, we may not take notice, but it's going on. One of my mentors said the status quo and conventional wisdom is either wrong or it's going to be wrong. So it needs to be under question. The other thing that entrepreneurs do that's not well known is they create demand. Say figured this out, Steve knows better than I do, 150 years ago, that good supply creates demand. Nobody demanded an iPhone, but it's a world-changing product. So that's probably the most profound example of our times. Google, nobody demanded Google, but we use Google every day. It's integral to everything that we do. So Google and Apple and many other technology companies created its own demand, and that's what creates growth in the economy. It's not just a matter of serving current needs. What are the tools of the entrepreneur? The first is, and this comes from Mises, from Israel Kirzner, and from the Austrians, is to be alert, be curious, pay attention. And so essentially, entrepreneurs are witnessing the world and paying attention and making observations that others are not. We've heard the old proverbial around the water cooler, people are talking about everything except what's important. So when we're at game day, it's great to go to the game and enjoy it, but when we're studying or when we're at work, we need to be paying attention to what we're doing. So if you look at the people that rise to the top in these companies, they're paying attention, they're very keenly alert, and they're taking in new knowledge at a very rapid pace. There was a quote by Edward Land where he stated that creativity begins at the edge of the known, and the known is why you're here at the University of Louisville. But when you leave, that process has to continue for the rest of your lives. In the long run, quality and simplicity wins, but there was a white paper issued by Babcock College some years ago, and it said, build a better mousetrap and people will make a path to your door. Has anybody ever heard that? And their answer was, no, they won't. You will have to market your product and your ideas. So sometimes, even in the world of technology, the best technology does not always win because it wasn't properly marketed. In our business, we either market our product and we explain successfully why our technology should be used, or another technology will be used that may not be as good. Regardless of how good your idea is or how well you market, 5-star service is imperative. We were just talking here earlier about the importance of service in every single business. So you can be the very best at what you do. If you don't have stellar service, you're not going to succeed in this market. Because in the modern world, and you young people know this better than anybody, you want everything immediately, fast, cheap, when you want it, where you want it, and there's no exception to that. So the modern user is very demanding, and in all cases, we'll expect and demand 5-star service, and if they don't get it and they have other alternatives, they're going to move to them immediately. We had a customer that came up at a show a couple of weeks ago, and Captivere executed perfectly, but the line coming in, the hydraulic line, was not put in correctly. So our service agent told her, you need to get this guy to replace the line. And this was a very intelligent, savvy woman in terms of construction. She wasn't sure exactly how to get that done. What our guy should have said is, I'll meet the other agent here and we'll get it done correctly. which is ultimately what we did, and she was very satisfied. So in the future, you have to take complete responsibility for everything that happens. Captivare kind of bit its teeth on, we will be responsible for the job. No matter who causes a problem, we will hang in there and we will get it fixed and we will get it right. So having a great attitude and service is critical in the long term. Read this and think about it. How you think will determine your whole future. Not the fact that you went to the University of Louisville, not the fact that you're smart. Your ability to use that information effectively through your brain is the most powerful tool in the world. Julian Simon, I don't know if you studied Julian Simon at University of Louisville, but he talked about the ultimate resource is you, the individual. It's not oil and gas, it's not diamonds, it's not money. It's your brain, your ability to process information. And if you leverage that, you can be as successful in the world as you want to. But how you think is going to be critical. Average thinkers avoid problems, they run from them. Some years ago, I was the co-chair of the Math and Science Coalition in North Carolina, and I asked these great mathematicians over and over again, what makes great mathematicians? And I always got the same answer, those who work the most problems. So experienced entrepreneurs are the ones who work the most problems. They don't avoid problems, they actively and aggressively solve problems. So over time, their ability to solve problems grows rather rapidly. And so what's the end goal of an average thinker? To be comfortable, to be cozy, to be happy. What's an entrepreneur? They have a mission that they want to accomplish. There was a comment about T.J. Watson, who was the great leader of IBM, would come in every day with a tablet, and he would have written down what he expected to accomplish. And his son used this example, that one day some salespeople that worked for him came in, and they sat in his office because they wanted to see T.J. Watson. And the next day they were still sitting there because he hadn't met with them yet. So his son said, Dad, what is the problem here? These people work for you. They came from out of town. He said, they had no appointment, and they don't set my agenda. And he said, they're getting paid while they wait, and as soon as I can work them in, I'll meet with them. So here was a man that was totally focused on what was going to be accomplished that day, and nothing was going to interfere with it. So if you look at your very successful entrepreneurs, they're driven toward outcomes. And they don't allow all this process and all the noise going on and all the chaos of the world to interfere with it. If you think about bureaucratic leadership, and Mises talks extensively about this, bureaucratic leadership is the worst kind of leadership. They can run trains on time. Entrepreneurial is the best kind of leadership. And what happens to companies, very typically, they're started by entrepreneurs, and ultimately, in the end, they're run by bureaucrats. And everything changes, particularly in relation to growth. So if you think about the greatest companies that ever existed in our country, McDonald's created the fast food industry. But today, their sales are declining. Why is that? Well, maybe it's because they're selling a 1955 hamburger in 2017. Could be other reasons. Gillette raised the price so high on the razors that they had to lock them up in the back room. And then what happened, lone entrepreneurs came in and said, we're going to take that business. Kraft found out over time, just like the beer people, other people could make cheese and could be very competitive. IBM, pretty much know the story. Bureaucratic management. General Motors, same thing. 1970, the Japanese showed up in California with these little cars. Big Three laughed at them. They thought it was a big joke. Clayton Christensen, the good thinker from Harvard University, says, watch out for that competitor that you want to laugh at because they're so low in the market that you think they're a joke, and they move up and move up. And that's basically what Captivare did. We came off the ground and we moved up, and by the time we got to a certain level, it wasn't going to really be possible for the rest of the industry to stop us. So don't underrate any competitor for any reason. If you look at these high growth companies, they're dynamic, they're innovative. Think about we tend to think of these entrepreneurs, particularly in Silicon Valley, as being a little wacky, and a lot of them are wacky, but look at the results they produce. Think of Uber completely revolutionizing the transportation business. If we look at the story over 50 years, it's going to be the most profound change that ever hit the industry. So it's a total exit. Facebook, ditto. Silicon Valley has the goal of revolutionizing every industry. So an industry sitting out there saying, well, we're not in the high-tech business, and I'm not worried about Silicon Valley, right, Steve? But Silicon Valley is going to come get you. They're going to figure out where you're at and how to make your business more efficient, and so you better pay attention. Amazon probably is the greatest company of a normal nature that you can think of in our lifetime. Absolutely beyond anything you could comprehend. So these are the premier new modern entrepreneurial companies, and you're going to see more and more of this over time. So if you're thinking in terms of being an average player and you're going to be able to compete, you better pay attention to what's going on in the market. Walt Disney is an exception. Walt Disney's been dead since the mid-60s. Disney's still innovating. They're still creative. They had times where they weren't. So this whole idea of entrepreneurial leadership has to be permanent within the industry, or it cannot grow. Why do our industrial companies grow at 1%, 2%, 3%? I think 5% is really a booming sales year. Bureaucratic management. Now you have voice, you can express an opinion, you can go down and vote, you can make recommendations, or you have exit. Exit is a very profound concept, and one that you should pay attention to. Because the entrepreneurs who think in terms of exit, they're going to change the whole industry. They're going to change all the rules of the game. I'll give you some examples of what we did in our industry. So those who believe in exit and who understand this concept are going to be the big winners in the future. Keep in mind as a student, when you're introduced to a new concept, it takes a long time for that to really register in your brain. What does this mean? Why is it profound? And even longer, how am I going to take advantage of that concept? So thinking continuously about important concepts in your life will help lead you to where you might like to go. Now, what is the process of the entrepreneur? Acquire knowledge, be curious, be alert, pay attention to everything that's going on. And if you look at the companies that really grow, they have a deep insight. They've paid attention to where the market's moving to, and they're going to move markets themselves. So the market may not even be moving in their direction. They're going to move markets. That knowledge is processed, and in a company like Captive Air, decisions are made very rapidly, so rapidly, and the information's flowing so quickly that obviously our employees complain about it. They say, can't you slow down a little bit? We can't comprehend this information. Say, no, we're trying to figure out how to speed up. We're not trying to figure out how to slow down. One of the things that one of our young engineers observed, 30-year-old engineer, he says, the reason I think Captive Air is successful, as soon as you guys, 2 or 3 or 4 engineers at the top, get an idea, you're moving on it with lightning speed, and when you know it's right, you're going to implement it, and you don't care what anybody downline says. If you're sure you're right, you're going to implement it. That doesn't happen in most companies. I give a talk to our employees and said, if we took a vote over the 20 key decisions over the last 30 years, about 17 would be voted down summarily. So we wouldn't be the same company we are today. So companies are not a democracy. So this continuous evaluation and improvement are imperative. It's not for everybody. It's harder to keep up. It requires somebody that really wants to grit in and learn and grow. But if you're going to see modern companies, this is how they're going to operate. And if you want to be comfortable and slow, maybe there'll be some places to work, but you won't have a reliable long-term job because maybe one of these fast-moving machines is just going to come take you out. I mean, supposing you were making compasses, alarm clocks, cameras and a whole host of things, and you said, I'm not worried about Silicon Valley. That camera will never change. People always want to have a compass in their hand. They'll want to have that reliable alarm clock. Well, lots of luck on that. Those industries aren't even going to exist. There's two concepts here that we want to talk about, innovation and Kaizen. We tend to say that everything that happens is innovation. Clayton Christensen from Harvard says, I don't use the word innovation anymore because I don't even know what it means. So somewhere between Kaizen, which can be small improvements, and major breakthrough, which is innovation, I'm not sure where they collide. But Kaizen is extraordinarily important. It means we continuously improve every process, every product that we have within a company. So last year I was asked to give a talk to some economists at Mises, and they said they picked Kaizen. And I thought, well, gosh, these economists aren't even going to be interested in Kaizen. But when they saw the end game, I thought, well, it's pretty interesting. So over a 25-year period, the cost of a captive air hood costs less money in the same dollars than it did 25 years ago. But that product today is vastly superior to what we made 25 years ago. How was it done? It was principally Kaizen. It really wasn't innovation. And that means we're improving everything we do every day. We do a monthly webinar. We did one last night. And we list all these changes. It's also recorded so you can listen to it as many times as you want. There's memorandums that are issued. But very often, 6 months down the road, someone will ask me, well, when did that change? Well, it changed on the April 1st webinar, which I'm sure you paid attention to, right? No, I think I missed that one. What it's done is forced everybody to realize we have provided the information in probably 3 or 4 vehicles. We've posted it to the web. And you're responsible to learn this information and to implement it in real time. That doesn't mean when you feel like it's 6 months from now, or you say later in the year I'm going to study up. Right now, we want it done. Now, this is my term. Be bold, but be right. What happens when you're wrong and you're bold? It's a bad day. So if you're going to be bold, you better do your homework. You better pay attention. You better go out in small groups and get some feedback and see if anybody can tear apart your idea before you're bold. Now, if it turns out you're bold and you're wrong, you apologize. And if if we make a mistake, we immediately apologize and say, what do we need to do to make it right for you? We don't try to make any excuses. We didn't meet your highest expectations. We were wrong. Fix it. And if you do that with customers, they'll stick with you. Why? Because you have integrity, because you're honest with them. And we all know that any vendor, even our best vendors, periodically, even the premier, wonderful vendors, they make mistakes because they have people working for them, or something goes wrong. What we look for is immediate action to correct that mistake. And if that happens, then we know we're dealing with a solid company, and they're going to be with us probably for a lifetime. Kersner talks so much about this idea of staying alert, paying attention, being curious. Understand in depth. There's a recent book out about depth of knowledge. We understand something on the surface. We need to understand it in great depth, because somebody else is going to understand it in great depth. Now, this idea that most opportunities are right in front of your face. You're walking around and you're looking at them every single day. Question is, do you observe them? Do you think about them? And do you see possibilities? And that can take a very long period of time. Who would have thought in 1990 that Starbucks probably next year will sell more coffee than McDonald's sells system-wide, worldwide? Unthinkable. But even after Starbucks had enormous success, nobody paid much attention. What really got my attention, I went out to Seattle a couple of years ago. Starbucks started down in the lower marketplace, and the big hotels, who probably were just laughing at Starbucks for many, many, many years, are serving Starbucks coffee. Now that's brilliant marketing, And it's a deep understanding that there was a problem there. And what was the problem? If you go buy a cup of coffee today and you don't buy it from Starbucks, you don't know what you're getting. You don't know what it'll cost, what the quality will be. And so Starbucks recognized that this is a universal problem in the country, and they fixed it. McDonald's probably could have put them out of business if they acted quickly meaning within 5 or 10 years, but they didn't pay attention to it. And if you want to read Clayton Christensen from Harvard, Google him, he'll explain that whole process to you. The incumbents tend to never pay attention to the upcoming because they're saying, hey, we're the incumbent, we're the greatest on the planet. And then one day they find out Starbucks is bigger than we are. So these are very profound lessons. So opportunities are in front of you, but you have to recognize them. And you recognize them through Kerzner's process of alertness. Become a person of character. Business functions on absolute integrity. And you can have absolute integrity for 30 years and then lose it one time. You're not a person of integrity anymore. You're not going to be trusted in the marketplace. This isn't necessarily a religious idea. It goes back to Aristotle, the truth and the good. Our minds and our brains are wired for the truth and the good. So if someone tells you a mistruth, you don't trust them anymore. Do you go eat in places where you don't trust their sanitation? Or you don't trust their quality of food? It's 100% trust that I can go eat there and I won't get sick and I won't have a problem. So be a person of character, because it's the only way you'll survive in the long term. And if you want to read the journal every day, you'll find individuals that are 50, 60, 70 years old that fail on character. And most people fail on character, they don't fail on competence. Many do fail on competence, but character is a huge issue. John Kennedy told us back in the 60s, life is not fair, so just get over it. Life is what it is. If you respond correctly, you can get better outcomes than anyone else. And here's the beauty about this idea of the event plus response equals the outcome. If you say no matter what goes wrong, it's my fault, you can fix it. So if I delegate to somebody and they fail, I say, I'm a poor delegator. I need to fix that. If I say, I'm perfect, I delegated to somebody that failed, I'm going to fail again and again and again. So the most freeing thing in the world is to be take complete responsibility for everything that goes on. And we do that on job sites all the time. And you can't even believe the amount of goodwill that it creates. And we might spend $500,000 a year that we don't have to doing that. Doesn't matter. It's small change. So don't waste time on self-pity. Don't try to reorder the world. The world is chaos. One of our professors at LaSalle University would come in every day and say, it was an all-male school at the time, gentlemen, order the disordered. We didn't know what he was talking about. We learned. The world is disorder. The world is chaos. Get used to it. It's your job to order your portion of the world and take responsibility for it. And if you do it, you will have amazing outcomes. You have to make the difference. Remember that all ideas stem from the individual. They don't stem from groups. Every idea is unique and individual. Now, we stimulate each other and we build on each other's ideas, but each one of those is a separate individual idea. And if we respect those ideas, more ideas will flow. That's the whole basis of captive air. Take responsibility, don't take shortcuts. If there's a problem, fix it. So be a fixer, be totally self-reliant. You can be virtually self-reliant in the modern world. Think about, there was a concept that Payne River had a number of years, and they called it no service, full service. So now we pump our own gas, and we have a higher level of service. We do everything on our iPhone. We don't need service. So the future is self-reliance, and you have amazing tools to be self-reliant if you use them. Milton Friedman introduced this idea of sweat capital. You basically earn money to build your own capital. That's essentially where Captivere came from. Startup was $1,300, 1976. No venture capital, no partners. And it's not for everybody, and it's not for certain types of businesses. But in this case, it worked extremely well. One of the things that you'll run into in the entrepreneurial world is most people, most of the time, are going to be against you. They're going to be against your ideas because they're novel, they're different, they're wacky. We call them blockers. They're in your family, they're in your church, your college, they're in your own company once you form it. The blockers are everywhere. I call them, we can't wait to block your good idea. And why are they doing that? Because they can't see the next step. They're blind. So you have to overcome those blockers. And many, many times it comes down to those greedy people that know that they can make it work, and they ignore the blockers, and they make it work. And this happens in our business on a very continuous basis. So if you have a great idea and you expect everybody to pat you on the back and say, you're amazing, you're brilliant, it's not going to happen. They're going to tell you it's a terrible idea, the risks are high, don't do it. You're going to have to ignore those if you want to get to the top. Greatness requires a lifetime of practice, excellence, working at it every single day, self-correction. It's not something that just happens one day. So we need somebody that's very accomplished, and we tend to think they were always very accomplished, and it's never ever true. Rejection of the status quo, rejection of blockers. One problem I have with best practices. Many concepts are good and valid. Best practice, oh, wonderful concept. Here's what happens in the big companies. They publish a manual of best practices. So if you work there, what are you going to say? Steve, this isn't the best practice? Probably not very politically correct, is it? So we like to think in terms of, this is the best idea we have right now. If you think of a better idea, challenge it. So seemingly good ideas can turn into bureaucratic ideas if you're not thinking all the time. And I see evidence of that in the marketplace. Never stop innovating. So many businesses ascend and they do well, and then they say, we're great, we're amazing, we got it, and they stop. So in any business, if you want to stop innovating, retire. Otherwise, you have to continuously improve, get better, and it's your responsibility to the customer. This idea of disruption, according to Clayton Christensen, is not always in the high technology arena. Nucor Steel was not in the steel business in the 60s. And Ken Iverson, who was the leader, realized that they were buying steel from Italy. And he said, why does it make sense that we be buying steel from Italy, not in the U.S.? So he went over there, he found out about the mini mills, said, hey, we're getting in the steel business. He brought the mini mills to the U.S. Nucor Steel is the largest steel company in the U.S. If Iverson had told you in 1965 he would be the largest steel company in the U.S., people would just roll on the ground laughing at him. Unthinkable, could not happen. It did happen. Starbucks ultimately will succeed in dollar volume over McDonald's. So disruption of common products is going to be a big part of the future. It's not always a new product, a new innovation as we think of disruption. It's common products delivered in a different way at a different price. Ego really is a huge encumbrance to growth. It needs to be driven out of the marketplace. Embrace humility. Your greatest entrepreneurs mostly are very humble people, and you know why? Because they know in any given day they can be knocked right off their feet because they're used to the competitive world. So embrace the American dream. It's possible for every single one of you. It's not easy, but it's worth doing. Kind of brief synopsis of Captivere. Began in 1976 with a small amount of capital, grew very slowly. At the end of 5 years, We were worse off financially than when we started. 1981 was not a good year for the economy. We were able to survive and persevere, kept up with our Kaizen and improvement, kept the dream alive in spite of very challenging circumstances. Always kept in mind that the user is our boss. We tell everybody in the company, I'm not your boss. I'm part of the supervision, but your boss is that user. You make that user happy, don't worry about making me happy. So Captivare has ascended from a little installation company to the largest manufacturer in the United States. We're now entering the HVAC business, so we're going to be competing with companies like Trane, Daikin, the big giants of the industry. And I asked this question of a group of managers probably 30 years ago at a conference. Should we be concerned about competing with very large companies? And the answer at the time was absolutely not, if you've done your homework and you have the right answers. I did throw up some books here that I thought may be of interest. Obviously, alertness to me is a big thing, because most people, think about this and make this observation, most people, most of the time, are not thinking, they're reacting, and they're not alert, and they're not even paying attention to the most rudimentary things they should be paying attention to. Development of our thinking skills, Julian Simon's got a great book on this, Ultimate Resource. Lawrence Bossidy, one of the great managers of our times, when he retired, he said, people tend to know their business, but do they execute? And you hear CEOs talk all the time, well, we either did execute or we didn't execute. Execution is a huge issue within companies. Obviously, we talked about Kaizen, exit, studying other entrepreneurs, what they did, what the great people did, gives you some insight, because you're going to face some of those same challenges. Tyler Cowen, I think, has a really good concept on this idea that we tend to want to be average, we tend to want to be in the pack. Entrepreneurs are way out of the pack. They have no desire to be in that pack. They have no desire to be average. Develop yourself as a virtuous leader, because if you're not, you're going to fail. It's just a question of when you fail. Value creation and creativity, these are words that are way overused, but they are important in the marketplace. And from our friend Steve Jobs, stay hungry, stay foolish. Apple changed the world, Google changed the world. Captivare changed our world in the industry that we live in. It was a pleasure to address you this afternoon.